want to do something a little different today. I normally, we play clips from time to time, just little clips here and there. But I came across a clip because it's Wellness Wednesday. Jill Scott delivered a little sermon, and I wanted to share it with people, and I wanted to share it with you because I feel like it's Wellness Wednesday, and there are a lot of folk that are going through something, and they're going through a lot, and they feel like they just gotta just trudge through. Got to be the strong one. They can't break down. They can't, they just got to hold on. And when Jill Scott said this, it gave me life. So I wanted to share it with the folk. So let's play, Smiz. Let's play the first part one. And we're going to talk, you and I, throughout it, Loree.
My biological grandfather passed away. And my grandmother was left, my Blue, was left with 5 children. Everybody came from Rocky Mount, North Carolina, talking about, I'll take this one or I'll take these 2. Give me one. And my grandmother said, no, my children will be raised together. Her cousin, Marianne, bought the house next door. And those women proceeded to knock down the wall and build one big house. So Marianne had her space, my grandmother had her space, plus more space for the children. This was row homes in Philadelphia, So time passes and my grandmother is working as a domestic, AKA a housekeeper for a Jewish family. Now, there's a gentleman down the road, down the street. This is Philly, so, we got streets. So there's a gentleman down the street, and he's been noticing my grandma. And, he liked the fact that she was taking care of things. So, and plus she's stunning, beautiful Blue. So, he, in turn, started making sandwiches and handing out apples and such to her children. They liked the nice man down the street so much they brought him home. He said when he met her, if you marry me, I will buy you a house with central air conditioning.
All right, so I'm gonna play 3 clips. In this first one, Jill Scott's grandmother, her name is Blue, lost her husband. And the thing I wanted to start with, because we're going to be talking a lot about kids today and education and a lot of things. But the first thing, the family came in and people started requesting to take different kids. And I know that this happened a lot because I know my dad's cousins, that happened with them. There's, a bunch of families when somebody dies and passes away and they have a lot of children, people come in and they raise the children. And sometimes they never even reconnect. But that Jill Scott's grandmother was like, nope, my kid's going to stay together. I'm going to make it work. And the strength of that became something to marvel. So much so that there was a gentleman down the street watching her and her strength and was like, okay, how do I approach this woman? He approached through the children by being nice to the children to the point where they brought him home. And I just think that, Blueprint, I know it's old fashioned, but I want us to return to some of the things that make sense.
I thought it was so touching. Like, Jill Scott has one of those presentation styles that when she gets real dulcet in the tone, it almost, you feel pre-tears coming because you know this going to be good. You know this going to be a good story. And I just appreciated that her story sort of encapsulates so much of what is wholesome and good about our communities. When someone is in trouble, we come together. We are there to help, or I'll help you with this, I'll help you with that. And the fact that her grandmother, Ma Blue, was so able to just find a center of strength to rely on when she said, no, I'm not going to pass my children out. Thank you. Appreciate you. Love you. God bless. Me and my baby's going to stay here. To me, and the fact that she was able to be such a model that people around her were watching, and to the point that her grandfather, Jill Scott's grandfather-to-be, Pop, was able to see how phenomenal she was even from afar is just a reminder. My mom used to say, the saints are always watching. people are always watching your move. They're always watching how we move and how we engage. And I thought that's like speaks so much to our ability to remain true to who we are as a people, and ensuring that the best of us is able to take care of the least of us in our communities, regardless of what we actually have or do not have.
I'm going to continue. And there's knocking during this clip because they're doing work on her roof, which she tells you during the beginning of the post, which I didn't feel the need to play because I could just tell y'all that's the knocking that you hear. All right, play clip 2, Smiz.
I used to like watching them, be sweet and loving to one another. My papa was very, very sweet and loving. Loving to me, too. He was my friend. He would take me to the bar. Oh, they're getting it in. He would take me to the bar with him, and the guys with the nice lady behind behind the bar would give me milk, and I was able to sit there and listen to the men talk. It was cool. My papa got sick, and he passed away. And everybody worried, They worried about my Blue. They worried about my grandmother, how she was going to deal with all of this. It was a lot to deal with, losing someone so loving and so tender and kind and sweet. And I watched her handle it. She just handled it. And the people came and they gave their well wishes and their condolences, and then it was just us. It was me, my mom, and my grandma. Man, that woman got down on the floor and started screaming. Screaming and crying, and I had never seen her like this before. And you would think I wouldn't remember this, but it was something that I can't forget. She screamed and cried and screamed until there was nothing left. She just was no more tears in her body. And then she slept. She slept for hours and hours and hours. I don't know, a day maybe? I don't know. As a child, I can't really tell you how long that actually was, but I'm telling you, she slept for a long, long time. And we worried. I know I worried. My mom kept saying, leave her alone. Leave her alone. And then she got up. She got up and she fried fish and she made some grits and told us to come and eat. And she laughed and she talked and she was Blue again.
Now, there's not going to be a story that Jill Scott will share without there being some food in it.
I instantly heard grits. That line.
Yes. Grits. Yeah. This part, and as she was sharing this, there's so many of us walking around holding things in, and it's literally killing us. And it's okay to put on a good face for people. And I think about, and the reason why I'm playing this, Chadwick Boseman for 4 years put on a face that I know when he was home with his wife, with his family, with the people around him, maybe he got a chance to let it out and to let his hair down. Her grandmother kept it together when the people were there. As soon as they left, it was just, and you need to be able to have somebody in your life that you can ugly snot booger bubble tears all roll around, scream, yell, hold yourself, sleep for a day and get it out. But some of us don't even do that. So I'm gonna need us this Wellness Wednesday. If you're one of those people that just always, man or woman or non-binary, who is the person that is always the rock of Gibraltar in your family, holding it together, and no one ever sees you cry or ever sees you weak, or and to me, this is not weakness. This is the epitome of strength, to be able to let your emotions go, to let it out when it's too much. You have to. It's just science. You have to let it out. And to hear her talk about her grandmother doing that and then sleeping, because the body, that's the only time that the body can repair itself is through sleep,
Right.
which is why it's super important. And I'm not going to do a sleep number commercial, even though I know there's probably one in here. But I do believe that sleep is super important, because as I go to sleep at night, first I'm being intentional about what it is I want to see happen the next day. But I'm also mindful that I have to give my body a chance to repair. Your spirit has to repair. Everything has to
Right.
repair. So I wanted to just pause on that for, and then before we go to the last clip.
Now, that the grieving process, and I'm learning about this even myself. I lost my grandfather and my grandmother over the course of the past 2 years. My grandmother January 1st of this year, and my grandfather the year before that. And seeing the grieving process, both as I observed my family and as I experienced it within my own body, and as I watched my children watching me, how I was grieving and interacting, that process is so vitally important. And all of us have our own spin on it. So for some of us, it's the wailing, it's the gnashing of teeth. For others, it's however it shows up for you, it is a fundamental part of the healing. And when we don't allow ourselves to grieve, and this is important for us both individually and culturally, when we don't allow ourselves the room to grieve, and then the room to pause, and then the room to sleep and to heal, that's the emotions are going somewhere. They are creating something. The question is, are we allowing them the release that they need to create something healthy and allow us to be healthier than we were before? Or are they going to metastasize into something that ends up harming us? Because grief and stress, when not released, can turn on your own body. When we see stress turning into different diseases and stress creating physical ailments within our own body, the same is true with grief. And all of these processes are cycles, and it's important. It's so important that we have rituals and opportunities that allow us to engage in them fully with our full selves, because otherwise we can never be full people in the process thereafter.
I couldn't agree more. Part of this journey is figuring out ways that we can, make life a little bit better for people who are listening. If there's just a drop for somebody, this is not for everybody. This is not a message for everybody. But when I heard it, I was like, somebody needs to hear what Jill Scott has to say today. All right, let's play this last clip, Smiz.
What I learned by watching her grieve the way that she did, I learned that you have to deal, that you have to face, that you have to grieve, that there is a process. And I'm not saying that everybody could just go through the grieving process in a day or a weekend. Sometimes it just takes time. And it takes you and I to face it and to be completely authentic with it, and not, tell somebody else how to deal with it. You have to, you got to go through your shit. Because you don't want it to pour out. You don't want it to pour out on other people. You don't want it to stop you from, finding love again, finding peace of mind. You don't want the issues and heartbreaks of your life to make you forget that life is the gift. Life is the gift. The opportunity to start again, the opportunity to grow, the opportunity to hold on and revere moments that matter to you, that can affect and change someone else's life and help them to grow and see. I met a sister in Philadelphia. It was the day that I was honored with my name on the Walk of Fame, on Philadelphia's Walk of Fame. And we stood outside and we talked, and she had lost her husband. Sis, I don't know where you are, but I remember our conversation, and I pray for you that you have found a way to love and to live and to laugh and remember the good times and hold on to the things that made you glow. Because that's the point. God is in everything, glowing and growing. Just wanted you to know
Yes.
that.
God is in everything, growing and glowing. Yeah,
Yeah. Whew.
as we as we get into the waxing and waning of COVID, because it is waxing and waning. There are periods where you say, oh, maybe things are going to go back to normal. My gym's open, maybe
Yep.
I can go back to
Yep.
the gym. Oh, the restaurants are open, maybe I can. Maybe there's not a pandemic anymore. Oh, maybe I can go out without a mask. Maybe, as we are, schools are open, maybe they're not open. It's like, can I send my kid to school? I mean, as we start to make these decisions, these life altering decisions, really, because you don't know what your choice is going to bear. I need us to really put self care at the forefront, of everything that we do, and
Yeah.
more so now than ever. Self care. Can you hear me, Larry? I'm sorry, because I don't
I
know.
hear
Is
you.
my
No,
internet
I hear
shaky?
you good. I'm amening and
Okay.
I'm hearing you and
All
I'm
right.
nodding and
Okay.
no,
All right.
everything you're saying is so true because I've even as you mentioned COVID and when I think about it, I try not to think about the grief that I associate with COVID because those first couple of months from March, April, May, it was at least in the city. The constant sirens, the constant updates, the being on a Zoom call saying, sis, how you doing? Oh, I just lost so-and-so. But all right, let me turn around. I got another call I got to get to. Like, it was so compartmentalized, and it was such a tragic drop into a bucket of grief. And then, I got to pick myself up because my kids got to get homeschooled. I got a Zoom meeting, and it's right before my grandmama's funeral. All of these things sort of wrapped into one, and we know it's coming back. We know that the virus is coming back. We know that there's a collective grieving that Black communities have been experiencing as a result of COVID on top of everything else. And it is so vitally important that we have rituals for self-care put in place during the times when we're not at the height of our grief so that when we are at the height of our grief, we have the muscle memory to pick up those rituals and help us to get back into shape as best we can because we are in a season of mourning right now in many ways, and we are just at the beginning because there is so much more to come. And you've been following my Twitter thread, so I've been saying, Lord Jesus, we ain't ready for all the things that are happening. So this self-care and the ability to have emotional sanctity and safety is vitally important. And I'm just so glad that she put that clip out because it really does help to give a good example as to what that looks like in practice. One of the things that we also need to think about is the fact that our communities, when we're talking about like what it means to be healthy, what it means to be whole, I often think about the fact that when we were coming out of plantation slavery, coming out of Jim Crow, our sort of history in this society has been marked by the grieving process and been marked by trauma to the point where we often don't even have the capacity to reset. We don't, because it's like you get through one period of grief and you go on to the next. And so I think that's one of the reasons these Wellness Wednesdays are so important is because we really have to be able to not just think about these issues from an intellectual perspective, but we also have to feel through these issues from an emotional perspective. I think what we're going to do now is take a few callers. Those of you who have been experiencing grief in your own life, those of you who have been dealing with some of the challenges that we've been talking about, throughout the show, please call in. Let us know what some of the rituals that you're taking on have been that have helped you to navigate some of that. So, Smith, I can't see the board, so if we have callers.
We'll start with Ray in Maryland.
How you doing, Ray?
Hey, how you doing, Lori? I'm well. This is my first time calling. I love the show. Love you. Thank you. I love hearing you beautiful ladies discuss all the things that's going on in the world. But just to make mine short, I lost my mom about probably 19 years ago. I just turned 50 last week. And I remember vividly, because she died of esophageal cancer. And when she told me in October of 2000, she passed in March of 2001. So 6 months was a process. And I was mad at first because she knew it was terminal for 2 months before she even told me. And but then I got through the process, but I had to I'm the only child, so and I have a half sister, but we were never really close, and so I had to pretty much take the reign and kind of make sure everything was in play. And she jumped in as well. As far as funerals, we had two because she had a funeral in D.C. and then she had another funeral in Florida, and it was stressful. to the point where I never cried throughout the process. I was in charge of, I remember her telling me that, once she, needing to resuscitate her or what have you, that do not do that. So I was the one to make the call. I'm waiting for my sister to come up so that everyone can be in the room to say goodbye, and it's stressful. So, I'm the one that actually had to have the doctor take her off of life support. And so I actually never cried throughout any of the process until the second funeral, which was about a week after the first. And once I actually saw that coffin going in the ground, I kind of lost it for a long time. I guess it just coming out. But during that process, I lost like 25 pounds because I internalized so much. And I was eating, but I didn't realize it until the end. I'm 6'5", about 230, 225 then. And so I got down to about 195, almost 200, just from the stress. And, so I know for me internally, I need to, stay focused, and I need to be able to let that out and, have outlets such as playing ball still and working out, eating right, and meditating as we go through this whole COVID situation, and, just the environment and just what's going on as far as with, police brutality and things of that nature. So just being able to kind of exercise and get those endorphins going and eating the best I can. I mean, I'm semi-plant-based, knocked a lot of red meat out of my diet, myself and my fiance. And so just trying to do everything as natural as possible. So that's my way of dealing with it.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I appreciate when the brothers share, because a lot of times we have this stereotypical image that Black men don't feel, right? Like there's like an emotional blockages. And when you said that you saw that coffin going in the ground and that really took you out, it's important for us to realize that culturally we have to make room for all of us to be able to express what it is that we're feeling. And so between the exercise and the meditation and just the crying, be it the one trickle down the cheek or just the body racked with sobs, whatever it is, being able to recognize and honor our body's need to have a physical release. I think that's so important. So thank you for sharing that. I think that really speaks to a lot of people in the audience who may be going through similar things.
And the reason why I also shared that clip, because the love that she talked about, her mom, her grandmother, her Blue, and her pop, that kind of love where she would catch them kissing, older people catch them kissing, and the affection and the tenderness. We also don't leave space for that. The way we express ourselves physically is usually through sex. It's usually through that WAP. You know what I'm saying, or that FOP. But to hear her talk about that kind of tender love, I wanted to share that as well, knowing that you're in that kind of relationship, and it's nice. And when children, because Jill was little Jill, watching that, that exchange, not knowing, her grandparents didn't know that she was watching, but that's something she aspires to, and she talks about it, her whole being lit up when she was talking about that, the love that they expressed.
We have to create room for tenderness, because we're not often given permission to be tender. And that's even culturally, like you said, the one tender emotion we can have is an orgasmic experience through sex. Like that's something that we've normalized through our music. We don't, but the idea of having a tender caress on the cheek or, finger playing, just gracefully or gently holding each other's hands, the gingerness that comes with having a tender-based relationship, that's not something that we often pride ourselves on or give and create room for. So it is sweet to see and sweet to hear.
And I'm loving that all of these callers are men. We got a lot of men. I want to, and I know Karen Taylor Bass is coming in. So I was actually setting this up for us to talk about yoga and self-care and all of the things that she's doing in this space. Let me take a couple more calls before we go to break. Taurus in Chicago. Welcome to the Karen Hunter Show. You're on with Laree Daniel Favors, Afro State of Mind.
Hello, Karen, Laree.
Hey.
I'm a first-time caller, long-time listener. And I just so happened, I got into the car and I heard clips of Jill Scott. And I just recently lost my wife. We were together for 34 years and married for 32. And we have kids. And I'm a retired. Excuse me, I'm choking up. I'm sorry. I'm a retired police officer. I got injured in the line of duty, and I've had multiple surgeries. And my wife was a healthy woman, healthy, and we worked together as a unit. She took care of me when I went down, and she never had high blood pressure, never had high cholesterol. The only thing she took was gummy vitamins and apple cider vinegar. And one morning, my wife dropped, and I held her. She died in my arms, and I struggled, and I was doing better. And then this COVID-19 came along, and I'm pissed off. I'm so pissed off at COVID, and I try not to be mad at God because we were spiritual, but I have been mad at God. I have been mad. I have almost like a schizophrenic relationship with God now. One minute I'm praising Him, next minute I'm mad, and I'm struggling, and I'm trying to come back. I've gone to counseling. I was, like I said, I was the police. I've seen death. I worked at a senior citizen home before becoming the police. I've gone into the apartments on seniors that have passed. Death never bothered me. Now I struggle with death. I never experienced. My parents are still living. All of my siblings. I've never experienced any major death, and this death of my wife has looped me, and I struggle. And I've gone to 2 different counselors, and they told me, "Hey, you're dealing with PTSD." And I'm like, okay, I've been in the military, never dealt with PTSD, but I deal with it now through the death of my wife. So that's all I wanted to say. I love your show. I love everything about it. My wife, before she died, she really loved. I got her so involved in your show. She really loved it, and thank you for just hearing me.
Now I'm grateful that that you could call, that you could express, because I think that's part of the journey, and it's okay to have a schizophrenic relationship with God. All of that is okay, because it's a relationship. It's a relationship, and this makes no sense. So you depend spiritually on God to take care of everything, and when God doesn't show up the way we think God should show up, we get mad, and it's okay. It's a normal reaction, and you're normal. You're fine. I'm glad you're going to counseling. I'm glad that there's somebody that you can talk to, and I'm glad you can pick up the phone and just talk. I mean, because I think that's the kind of community that we've tried to build here, is one where it's safe, to just let that go, let it out. I have no answers for you, Taurus, other than I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you're going through this, but know that there are people out there that absolutely love you, and I know you know that family-wise, with your children and your immediate family. But there's a larger family that through these airwaves, really, they are lifting you up right now, and I feel that. Before you came on, we had a couple of brothers call up. The last one lost his wife, which I can't imagine losing somebody that you love that deeply, been together that many years, longer than you've been on this earth, more time than you've been on this earth. You've been with that person, and they die in your arms. And you're doing yoga. You're into the self-care thing. You're into your chapter 2. You've figured out how to pivot and remix your whole life. But I know it was a journey. It didn't come easy.
Yes. Didn't come easy. And first of all, my condolence to the caller and to all callers who are grieving during this period, pre-pandemic, during the pandemic, and after we get out of the pandemic. I just want to say that my journey, grief happens in so many different ways. Last year, I think I spent half a night last year depressed. grieving a marriage. Even though you want something, you still grieve it. It is a death. And so although it's not the same as the previous caller, grieving has many stages to grief, right? And so I could only say what's helped me as a certified meditation and yoga coach is breathing. Just taking the time just to be still and allowing yourself to just be. And sometimes we don't give ourselves that second or moment. Breath, inhaling and literally feeling your body inhale and expand and collapse, because through that collapse is that relief of detox, but also that relief to release. And we don't do that sometimes. For me, journaling. So I do this movement journal, and movement is healing. That's what our ancestors tell us. So whether you are walking, whether you are just outside or doing anything with movement, if you can dance and chronicle that and just start to write it or paint it or whatever expression you feel, you're going to just start to feel better. It is a stage. There are steps to it. Unfortunately, it doesn't happen in a microwave, so you have to go through the process. And I think you talked about it before, support counseling. Grief counseling is real. Mental health is real. For me, going back into therapy after this last year, it was important for me to unpack and show up for myself, show up for my family, but at the same time put my children in therapy, whether it's art therapy or whatever, so they can unpack. Because, we carry so much, and the person that you love, it could be your parent, your friend, your cousin, whatever, they don't have the answers, and no one has the answers, but allowing yourself to be naked and talking it through to someone who's not going to judge you and someone that's not going to say, oh, you still going through this? Hell yeah, I'm still going through this. Give me a second. Give me a minute. Give me a year. Give me days. So for me, that's how I've been able to put one foot in front of the other, but being forgiving to myself, being kind to myself, and understanding that I don't have the answers. And even when you serve a mighty God, you don't have answers, and you have to trust. And that's a hard thing when you're grieving, is trust. So I hope that provided something, but writing and movement journal helps trust and believe, because you'll reflect on your words 90 days from now, a year from now, and you'll be able to understand that raw pain and emotion and just see your progress. And when you're in pain, progress is hard to come by.
Yeah. Thank you for that. As you were talking too, there was this part of the clip where, Jill Scott wanted to, basically get her grandmother. Should we wake her up? Should we wake her up? And her mother's like, no, just let her sleep. I think as support for somebody, the hardest thing is to let somebody go through their thing. You want them to get over it and to shake it off. More so for you, because it's unsettling to watch somebody strong break down, somebody that you depend on break down. You want them to go back to the way they were. And the truth of the matter is they may not. I mean, her grandmother became blue again after she fried that fish and made those grits. She was back to herself. But there may not be the back to for a lot of us who are going through it. There may be a new normal, and that's something that the people who are supporting have to understand too, that they may not return back to the person that you knew.
Absolutely. And I knew Blue Babe. I knew Jill's grandmother, and her skin was so beautifully blue. It was just that gorgeous, blue-black. It was amazing. And I remember that relationship. And Jill honored her grandmother by having the Blues Babe Foundation. So, there's so many things we do as we grieve, how we honor that person, honor their memory, honor their legacy. And, I lost my grandmother 6 years ago, and she was my best friend. And so you never get over that loss. You never. But each day it gets more manageable, and you honor them. So if I see a monarch butterfly right now, I become a crazy woman, because I'm like, oh, my God, Grandma, hey, Grandma. Like, the day my grandmother transitioned, I was picking up my daughter from preschool, and my grandmother was ill. and I knew, and yellow was her favorite color. So when I saw that butterfly, I said, "Oh my God, Grandma just transitioned." And we had made peace already, but every time I see her, my favorite season is spring through summer, even fall, because I will always see a butterfly. So I get it. They come back to you in so many different ways, and when you need that person most, they will tap you and revisit you. So the memory lives on. They're not here in flesh, but you will feel them as you move and glide.
That's hearing you talk about that reminds me of one of the main things that I regret. I regret so much about our experience as a people in this society, but not having the ritual for ancestor connection, not having the ritual for accepting that we can revere our ancestors, that we can engage with them, is something that was taken from us as a part of our experiences, during the transatlantic slave trade. And whereas, having an altar, having a space where you can go meet with your ancestors, a space where you can interact with them in ways that English and Western religions don't really have a place for or the language for. That's one of the things that I wish that we were able to retain. And I think that's one of the reasons that so many of us are now looking to sort of the African traditional religions to sort of be able to reclaim our ability to connect with our ancestors in ways that are meaningful, that are valid. And so hearing you having the butterflies, that just makes my heart feel so good, because those are the types of things that we do have, and those are the types of ways that we can still maintain a connection.
And you feel it, right? You feel that connection with that person. You feel that healing. Sometimes it's an answer by something just showing up out of nowhere when you are stuck and saying, and you're like, and it reveals itself. So I will tell everyone, just allow yourself to surrender. It's so powerful to surrender, and it's not hokey. We have to surrender so that we can get that healing, can get that answer. And I'm telling you, if I hadn't surrendered, I'm certain that I would not be able to be here with a smile on my face. Given everything that has gone on, you find and you become more resilient, but you've got to humble yourself, and you've just got to surrender. And you can't be judgmental of yourself. And if others are judging you, that's not the tribe you need right now.
Drew McCaskill said it's time for us to edit the people in our lives, and I love that.
Amen. Hallelujah.
The editing process.